Start your mornings with something extraordinary. Introducing Monkey Werx Chimpurado, a delicious Mexican canela medium roast with irresistible notes of chocolate and cinnamon. Each cup transports you to the heart of Mexico, where the rich flavors of Mexican cinnamon meet the smoothness of medium roast coffee, kissed by a hint of chocolate. It's more than just coffee. It's a warm embrace, a moment of connection, and the perfect start to your day. Monkey Werx's Chimpurado, for those who crave excellence in every sip. Available now at monkeywerx.com.
All right. Hey, welcome, folks. It's going to be your SITREP. It's 3/27/2025, coming to you live here from the Monkey Lounge in the great state of Texas. And today we're going to be peeling back the banana to just take a gander at what is going on around the world from a military perspective, as always. But you've got a national security briefing took place yesterday. Tulsi made some comments. We're going to get into the details around that that I find interesting, and some of it even concerning. The other piece, too, we're going to look at what's going on with Europe, because I do believe they are pushing for war. Absolutely. If you look at all of the stuff as it relates to NATO and what they are doing, I see every indicator that they are absolutely going after Russia, that they want war. And then, of course, you know, we'll talk about the stuff happening with immigration or southern border, as always. But this one, you just definitely need to pay attention to, because I do think we are now at that point where everybody's pushed everything they're going to do on the chessboard in, and the next phase is naturally it's going to be war. I don't see anybody backing down. So let's get into it. All right. So we'll start off over here in the Mini and Skyglass. And as always, you know, we've stripped out all of the trainers, probably close to 200 trainers, 319 aircraft still up. That's after I've stripped all the trainers out. So the trainers are here. You can see in the red, the highest numbers, right? Because this is sorted by quantity. All right. And then, of course, you take a look at the H-60 Blackhawks. So we got the 60s up, most of it. I mean, a lot of activity going on right here in the Panhandle. That's an indicator of training activity. Remember, 6 to 8's our normal number, but you could probably strip 20 out of this equation. It's still, you know, sitting at 31, which is an elevated number. Now we drop down, look at the air refuelers. You see 32 KC-135s, and almost every single one of those are domestically here in the U.S. We do have one abroad, but we go over here to the B767-200s, also air refuelers, and then that brings our number to 41 on screen. So pretty heavy. Again, this is a good indicator we've got a lot of fighter activity up. Okay. Right. Back those out. Now, there was one I did want to show you. Let me take us, I'm going to sort this down alphabetically. Because I do have an R135. In fact, we've got two of them currently up. But the one that catches my eye, of course, this one does too. We'll let me throw on the max visibility. Let's show the traces of where these are going. But this right here is very interesting. I don't think I've ever seen two in this neck of the woods at the same time. This is pretty unusual. So again, let me see. So that is R135. So let me just make sure I don't have anything else selected. I don't. Okay. I'm showing 3 aircraft here. One of them is a P-8. The other seems to be an R135. Let's see. This is just signal intelligence. This is the piece I think we ought to pay attention to. Notice this is right off the coastline. Trump is here. So when you start looking at signal intelligence flying directly across from Trump, that is a little concerning. All right. Notice it is down here. It's kind of looping around, flying along that coastline of Cuba. Let's see if it turns and goes into the Gulf of America. Now, again, I'm showing 2. I don't know why these are showing up. This may not be. Let me pop this in. Yeah, that's showing as an R135. I don't know. All right. Well, but then I click over it. I get P8s. So, all right, we'll just back those out. And, yeah, nonetheless, this one off of Trump is a little concerning. Now, if I do kick this up, you will see we do have some high flyers out. They kind of flash in and out. We do have one out here that has since disappeared, one over the center of the U.S., one off the western Pacific coastline. All right, let's start peeling this back a little bit. Let's talk intelligence community first and foremost. And you'll notice that we've got a lot of activity over South Korea. We've got stuff that seems to break out and go towards Guam. And then we've got, dropping down a little bit north of Perth, and a little blink of stuff last 2 days over the Philippines. Now, I'll take us over to Europe, and you'll notice that we do have some stuff coming out of Constanza. Again, the LaSalle Aviation is most of this. This is not factual. These little sprites that you see pointed out over Belarus, there's no way we're flying Intel flights over Belarus. I'll bet dollars on that one. Right now, along the border, absolutely, because we just had some troops go missing, and we did find them, but that did not turn out well, and we're going to have to probably get into the deets of that later. Now, this piece, notice Southern California. Actually the flank from Texas all the way down, but notice right along the southern border here, down Southern California, up the coastline of California, right up here to the northern end of the United States, and then this piece. Now, when I show you the R-135s, it's kind of in the same area as we see the activity with the R-135s going on, and some real low-hanging ones as well from the Intel community off the East Coast. All right, now let's talk drones. And from a drone perspective, we'll start out in Asia. Again, you can see a little bit there between South Korea and South Korea and Japan. And then we drop over. Notice this one coming out of Malta. That's going to be a Q4 drone, high altitude. It heads down towards kind of UAE, Qatar. And I can't tell if it goes out any further. It looks, maybe it turns around, but it looks like a broken trace. And then, of course, you can see off the coast of Israel, up off of Lebanon, and then looking very closely at Syria. Now, we get over to the United States. From a drone perspective, you can see just one high flyer out over kind of D.C. and Norfolk off the East Coast. One Q9, that's going to be a little border protection up there near Winnipeg. And then you can see the traces going from Southern California up to the north. Same thing that the Intel flights were doing. Now, let's talk R-135, signal intelligence. And you'll see, notice this box. I show you this box all the time. This is where the Intel flight was just located as well. So they absolutely got eyes on something. We've seen cartel busts up there recently. And then that's going to be the Brits looking closely at Crimea. All right. Now, the other piece we want to talk to is going to be the gray birds. All right. This is going to be your agency Uber. Now, notice you got one that looks to be headed to Hawaii or somewhere out in that general area. And then you'll notice, too, there's one goes down to Puerto Rico. My guess is they're doing maybe a little shakedown of somebody that's in captivity down there. Right. And that's a round trip. Again, agency Uber. And then notice, too, you've got this one. Leaves D.C., does a fuel stop in Terceira Island, and then bounces out towards Malta, disappears out over the Mediterranean. Again, agencies. Now we talk AWACS. And when you start looking at AWACS, you got one man in the middle, looks to be over Poland. We go over here to the United States, and you'll see down to the southern border of Texas, and then off the East Coast. Looking at ship lane traffic more than likely off the East Coast. And then you'll see one also looking at probably ship traffic off the West Coast, Southern California. All right. Now, we are going to talk about the NATO countries, some of them. We'll talk about Russia. We're going to talk about Germany, France, and then we'll even take a look at what the Australians are up to. In fact, we can go ahead and bounce down to Australia just to show you what the latest is the last 2 days. Now, the Australians, I've stripped all the trainers out. So these are going to be legit flights, C-17s, maybe AWACS. All right, that right there is probably AWACS off of the coast of Sydney. And then you'll see some broken traces that head up to Guam. Right? Now, keep in mind that the U.S. Marines have been doing exercises with the Australians, so that may be why you start to see a little more activity there to the north, et cetera. Now, this one's interesting because what are the Australians doing in Southern California? And then what did they go up here for to Pittsburgh? I don't know. And what are they doing in the Panhandle? I do know we've got trainers and trainer activity going on there, so they may be doing some training stuff. But, well, I don't know. That is $1 million question. So let's get into the news and what is happening here now. First and foremost, Trump is at the White House today. Looks like he's got an intelligence briefing that is closed to the press at 11 a.m., signing yet more executive orders this afternoon around 2 o'clock, and then he has a dinner, participating in a dinner. Okay, so let's take us on over. We talked about EOs, et cetera. Look at this. This is a presidential action. He basically is telling them they have to do an immediate declassification of materials related to the FBI's Crossfire Hurricane investigation. You may remember that. That has to do with the Russian collusion. That has to do with all of the stuff they tried to plant on him and spent his first term basically on his heels fighting all of this when it turned out to be a big hoax, and the FBI was directly behind it. Now, the interesting piece that I see here, notice where the direction is given. I don't see Kash Patel anywhere on here, so he didn't tell the FBI to release it. He told the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi, right? And then this guy here, I think Ratcliffe, director of the CIA now. But it's all tied to FBI. So why would you not go tell Kash, release it? I want every bit of it out as well. I don't understand that. But nonetheless, this is interesting. It is a memorandum for Bondi, right? The AG, and then these three. So no Kash Patel. Of course, Kash works for Bondi, I guess, right? So at the end of the day, that's where I guess the buck stops. So this is interesting. It's going to be, I think when it all comes out, it's going to open a lot of eyes. Now, will we see any prosecution? I will. We dang better see something. We know Comey was behind this. We know Hillary was behind it. There was a bunch of bad names. Maybe this is when they release it, that will spur the rest of the investigation. Or maybe it just brings it all out to light so the people can see it. So when these people get prosecuted, it doesn't look like a witch hunt. Okay. All right. So stay out of Dallas on the 30th. This is what's going on. You've got, they're expecting 10,000 illegals, or at least sympathetic to illegals, as this giant march takes place. It's a migrant march coming to Dallas, and the big question, will I show up? Now, remember, Dallas is a sanctuary city, so they're not going to get a lot of support from local Dallas police. But nonetheless, that is definitely on the near horizon. We'll have to see what happens here. Pretty bold move if you're an illegal showing up for a rally. All right. So we had this intelligence briefing yesterday. A lot of it stemmed from the whole Signal fiasco. But this was a statement, actually two things that came out that Tulsi made, in her remarks. China possesses the biggest military threat to the U.S. Now, a lot of this has to do with cyber capabilities, et cetera. We'll look at the cyber map in just a minute. I don't see a lot of cyber attacks coming out, at least not from this particular tracker that we'll be looking at. Are they behind it? Yeah, I'm sure they do. There's no doubt about it. They seem to be more focused to maybe what they're doing south of our border. The other piece, too, Tulsi made this straight up comment that Iran does not have nukes. This is one I just have a hard time, and I'm sure many of you do as well, getting my head around. We have been saying that Iran is, quote, months away from having nuclear bombs since 2005. All right. That's a hot minute. How can someone be months away since 2005 and not have nukes? Now, I've seen leaks that said that, and I say leaks, not official leaks, but I've seen posts out there that would suggest that Iran has up to 7 nukes. So I find that just an interesting, difference. You got some people saying 100%, yeah, they got them. They got up to 7 of them. How that information got out there, it's speculation, I'm sure. Then you've got our intel community saying, no, they don't have any. Now, you do remember Bibi came to the United Nations Security Council in New York at one point, right? Made a big speech, talked about, showed this big graph and board exactly where they were in the process. And in his case, he said they were weeks, I believe, weeks away from having the capability. What has changed? In fact, between 2005 and now, we've given them a influx of money. We've released sanctions. We've done everything that we can to help them along. And when I say that, you know who I'm talking about. Obama and Biden, right? John Kerry. So, yeah, I just find it hard to believe that they don't have any. I really do. All right. Now, from the cyber attack perspective, everything that we see, every time I pop into this Bitdefender map, everything is, 99% of it is right here out of Europe. So, this is where all the attacks seem to be coming from. I see onesie-twosies popping off from China, but not really a lot happening out here. Okay. Guantanamo Bay. Let me talk about, the media pushing false narratives. We bring it up all the time. Remember ABC came out and said, they're shutting down Guantanamo Bay. They're taking everybody that they've sent there and sending them out of the spa to different prison locations. I don't see any evidence in that. In fact, I see the opposite. So again, somebody was pushing a false narrative. That is not the case. ABC should come out and basically, tell everybody that was not the case. But do they? No, they don't. So let me just show you this right here. This is Global X inbound from Alexandria to the spa. So this is where they fly in, they deliver the bad guys. Remember, Alexandria is a 72-hour holding facility. We see a lot of flights going to and from that location, taking people out of the country or taking them to the prison locations. All right. Now, let's continue on because this is where we just add to that. Now, I showed you all the intel flights. You can see there are a lot of flights that come out of Biggs Army Airfield that are doing intelligence runs. Okay. But you'll notice too, we got a C-17 coming in from McChord, all right, Joint Base Lewis McChord out of Tacoma, Washington. And then this, do you see this coming? This is probably your Bureau of Prisons as well as even Customs and Border Protection or ICE. Okay, this is one of their DC-8s. This is coming in from a prison location, Will Rogers, Oklahoma City, arriving at Biggs Army Airfield. From there, you see it heads over across the way to El Paso. We'll have to see where it goes from there. But also notice you got the Allegiant flights coming in. This one's from Pittsburgh. Another one, that's two of them coming in from Pittsburgh, where they go from there, Harrisburg, back to Pennsylvania, back to Pittsburgh. So more than likely, they are delivering people to the immigrant camp here at Biggs Army Airfield. Now, this was the Houston part. You'll notice, I'll get down here to the arrivals, and a lot of flights, actually. Notice all the DC-8s coming in. A lot of DC-8 flights coming in. But here's one, Houston Regional, okay? Now, if I go back over here, I'm going to show you one of the headlines from Breitbart. Houston ICE agents detain 600 plus illegals in a single week, right? That connects the dots of the flights we've been seeing going into Biggs. They're coming out of Houston, and just confirms they're being apprehended and taken to this location, at which point they'll be processed out of the country or into Guantanamo Bay, etc. All right, let's take a look at the camper flights. You're going to notice right here, it's a little active. Most of it, you got it coming out of Charleston, South Carolina, headed to RZE. Okay, you go, well, wait a minute. Why do we have 747s going back to the forward operating base near Ukraine? Well, we'll see here in just a minute. You've got one going into Bulgaria. That's Sofia. Coming, U.S. Transportation. Sorry. All right, so this is where it left from, Sofia. You got one leaving Dover. You've got one leaving Fort Hood down in Austin, Texas. These three at the bottom are wide bodies, but they're probably troop carriers, okay, taking troops. Now, let's go over here to the Brits, and then we'll start to transition into these other countries that are tied to NATO. You see this one going out of Cyprus, looks to be headed in, well, that's over Yeah, kind of Jordan and Saudi, headed towards Iraq. Maybe they're landing. They're at 29,000 feet, 602 miles an hour, so that's definitely not landing. Then you've got this one down in Oman, and then one coming out of England, it looks like. Another one headed down kind of towards, I guess, the southern or the western coast of Africa. Maybe headed down south here, maybe towards the Ivory Coast, et cetera. You got Cape Verde out here. All right, so now let's just go take a look. I want to show you what the French have been up to now. Remember, they just finished an exercise called DefNet, and you will just notice that they've been quite busy. This is just 2 days of French flights. Very active. One thing I will tell you, I have not stripped out all of the trainers, and most of that is probably training activity. Notice you got this one down to the Ivory Coast, exactly where we see the Brits headed, down towards that same neck of the woods. All right. And then you see one headed over to the United States. That one landed, actually it didn't go in the U.S., went to Montreal. But let me back up, because I will show you one of the things that caught my eye over here on the big side of the house. Let me see if it's still there. Let me go back to the arrival departure board. Let's see. We'll start with the departure side. And we actually have a French aircraft that came inbound here. Let me see if it's still on the board. All right, we'll go to departures into more, see if I can find it. But I was just looking and I was thinking, why are the French landing here? Oh, it's interesting. It has disappeared. It was on the board, not there. All right, well, anyway, you've got the French we just looked at over here and their flights. Didn't see that connecting the dot there, but there was a French one that actually flew into Biggs Army Airfield. I don't know what the French would be doing at that location, but maybe doing a little passenger pickup stuff. Maybe they maybe have some bad folks that the French are coming over to pick up and take back to their prison. I will tell you, we did have several flights from the Ukrainians, and you go, why are the Ukrainians over here doing the same thing? Well, they come into Phoenix, Arizona, but they've been seen at Biggs. We've seen them all around, headed south of the border. It looks to me like maybe they are picking up some folks as well. So you got the French, the Ukrainians, the Colombians, the Venezuelans, all these people coming in to get their own people. So, all right. Now, we talked, as we get into the NOTAMs, you'll just notice nothing really new other than you'll notice there is a NOTAM, a larger NOTAM over Trump's residence at Mar-a-Lago. Now, this is a bigger box, typically what we would see with a Biden, but I think the reason they've made this box large is because we've had a multitude of aircraft that have violated the TFR over Trump's residence, a lot. And so I think they're making it bigger to try to give themselves a little more time. But nonetheless, that has expanded. Notice, too, you got a lot of boxes down in Mexico, all right? West Coast, East Coast, the normal stuff. All right, it looks like a missile firing box out over the Atlantic. Stuff around the northern end of the UK, and then missile box, again, active out over the Norwegian Sea, headed northbound. All right, so let's continue on. All right, this is going to be Ramstein, C-130s. Don't know who this one is on the cross call sign. You got the Belgium Air Force in. You've got Atlas Air headed back to Fort Dix at Lakehurst. That's a 747. And then you have this one that is also headed back Camber Flight. That's an Airbus, so that's going to be bringing some troops probably, maybe a little rotation out of the region. So I don't know if you heard about this. This is kind of crazy, but over on Breitbart, they said 200 plus police raid a group that was plotting a coup in Germany. It dates back a little bit in terms of when they started getting kind of eyes on these people. It was around some of the festivals that took place back in 2022, 2023. But it says more than 200 federal and state police officers searched a total of 19 properties given the locations of where they were across the state. But that's an interesting data point for you, given the world we live in right now, to think that they would even be, you'd have this many people trying to instigate a coup. Crazy, crazy times. Okay, here's RZE Poland, forward operating base. Now, I showed you the camber flights going in to this location. We're going to see a bunch of them on the board here. I don't know what to make of it. I cannot see Trump giving Zelensky more stuff. I just can't see it. Given that we're trying to negotiate peace, it would be stupid to keep giving him ammo for his gun because he continues to fire it. So I think we may be seeing some pickup of stuff, or a different scenario, we're loaning things to Poland. Okay, I'll show you why in just a minute. But notice here, you've got NATO is in, they've landed there. Let me go down a little further. You've got 2 camber flights here, 747s, one out of Tampa, one out of Washington Dulles. Let's see. Those are the arrivals. So let me just continue on. This is why I find this interesting and why I think maybe, remember, RZE is in Poland. Is it possible that we are giving Poland, or we've sold some stuff to Poland, that we're making deliveries at that location? Could be. Poland only has ammo for 2 weeks of war. This is coming from a security chief. Now, this is Russian times. Take it with, a grain of salt. Ukraine conflict is giving Warsaw time to rebuild its military capacity, coming from a top Polish official. It doesn't mean that they are only, 2 weeks worth of ammo across on everything, but just certain categories they are lacking. So pay attention to that, because that's a pretty important data point for you. Okay, Ukraine. This is why I don't think we're giving them more stuff. In fact, I think we may be picking it up, bringing some stuff back, repositioning it within different areas of the Middle East, including Israel. All right. Ukraine still hitting Russian energy sites. This is coming from the Kremlin, as a naval ceasefire not yet implemented was underway. Less than 24 hours since the expanded Ukrainian partial ceasefire was announced, and they're off to the races, hitting, popping stuff off yet again. So it's, very hard to get a ceasefire in play when both sides continue to pop things off at each other. Okay, Ukrainian F-16s strike Russian ground targets with guided bombs. I guess you got them now. They're going to try and, hey, let's just start using them. We got it. This is a day late and a dollar short. They could have used these 2 years ago, but they just now getting them, and they're just now using them. It'll be interesting to see how far out they're actually flying these. We do know there's a lot of missile defense when it comes to Ukraine. In fact, a lot of the things that are flying out over country, if at all, are drones and stuff, because things are getting shot down rapidly. So, but looks like they are using guided bombs to take out targets. As you can see them flying with the Ukrainian flag on the tail of the F-16. All right, continuing on. France announces $2.2 billion Ukraine aid package with joint weapons production, Mica missiles, and Mirage jets. So they've got F-16s. Now France has given them this stuff, as along with a total $2.2 billion Ukrainian aid package. So, as I mentioned, we continue to see all of the NATO region still pushing hard towards war with Russia. Another indicator right here. EU rejects a U.S.-mediated Black Sea ceasefire deal. They said, no, we're not lifting any sanctions off of the Russians. We want to maximize the pressure. And so this is a European Commission spokesperson telling the Financial Times. So, we broker some deals. We get them out there. We got both sides still firing shots off at each other. There's really not a true ceasefire. And nothing's changed. This is going to be a hard one, folks. Going to be really hard. Let's see if we can get any traction. All right. Now, speaking of peace in the region, let me just show you who's not going in the direction of peace, and that is Israel. You just take a look at what's going on in Gaza. They're lighting it up. I mean, this is hotter than a junkie spoon, as I say. You can see air defense popping off here. A rocket was launched from Gaza Strip at southern Israel a short while ago, and basically, I guess they implemented missile defense. Same thing here. This is probably 2 missiles fired from Yemen, right? Didn't Trump just tell them, hey, Iran, if Yemen continues to fire because we know you're the one supporting them, we are going to basically come after you. So again, that's why I think we will hit Iran. We're not going to take them out. Look, at the end of the day, 2 things, data points you have to remember. Ezekiel 38, Iran, Turkey, Russia, prominent, right? They're still in here. So even if we take out whatever potential capabilities we have, they go back, lick their wounds. They are not going away, okay? The other piece, too, Isaiah 17, you start talking about Damascus, which would indicate that something big goes off up here, okay? That's why I think Iran certainly has the capability to make, if nothing more than a dirty bomb. I just find it hard to believe Damascus here. This is Lebanon. They're still popping things off, as you can see up here in Lebanon as well. But this side, you look at Syria, you start looking at what's happening. This is Damascus, and you'll just notice there are just a lot of things happening there. They've got civil war happening. You got Turkey attacking them at the north. You've got the U.S. and Iraq happening over here in this side of the country, and Israel popping things off on the southern end as well up here into the northern end. So, okay, continuing. So we've been watching the repositioning of military assets out to Diego Garcia all around Persia, the Persian Gulf, into the Red Sea, etc. Iran made an announcement. Hey, we're getting ready to show you something that the world didn't know we had. I think we knew they already had it. We've seen other images of this, but I guess they came out and publicly admitted to it. But they're showing off this underground missile city that holds most of their advanced weapons, right? So they got them deep, deep, deep underground. And we'll talk about this stuff here in just a second. But I'll just show you the video as it kind of goes through and plays. There's no sound to this. I've taken it off because it's just, music. But you can see it's a pretty nice little tunnel system. They got stuff stacked all the way down both sides of it. And how deep this is, I don't know, but I'm sure we've got things that can probably get to that level. You can see quite a bit showing off their assets. All right. So, okay. So that was the Iranian disclosure aspect. Notice, did you see this one right here? Let me back that up 1 second before. Did you see that? Let's pause it right there. Do you see what I'm showing you? That is a container truck. That is just like the Club Ks, right? So they're hiding missile systems inside container trucks. Data point. All right. Now, the B-2 Spirit stealth bombers begin unannounced deployment to Diego Garcia. Yeah, we're starting to put the B-2s into play. That tells you we're going to go probably do some bunker busters inside Iran and probably Yemen. So this is all stealthy. So we'd be able to fly those over. They wouldn't have a clue as to what's going on. And then you look here. This was captured. It says U.S. Air Force tankers up from the RAAF, right, down in Australia, and a pair of B-2 bombers inbound from Whiteman. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, actually. Hawaii due to unspecified emergency. Okay, so nonetheless, you can see the assets, the tail numbers headed up there. And you got to catch these things in action. Otherwise, you won't see them. Now, we'll just move on from there. You typically aren't going to see the B-2s anyway, right? You'll see B-52s, you'll see B-1s occasionally, and not always on all of those either. But the B-2s, I've never tracked a B-2 in flight. So, okay, and speaking of the region, you talk about you get into the Red Sea. Somalia is also one that's just a fly in the ointment. U.S. conducts strikes against IS in Somalia. Now, this just took place, but was confirmed by United States African Command, or AFRICOM. So this is, like I said, this is just, it's a bad region. You get into Somalia. We know they're bad dudes there. You get into Yemen. It's just a hotbed. Anything around that little Horn of Africa, I think, is a spot where we will probably see a lot of increased activity in due time, especially as we're trying to get the Yemens in control, because if the Somalis start getting engaged, it kind of changes the dynamics a little bit to our war and our fight down there, because now you got them on both sides of you with respect to the Red Sea. So, okay, buckle up. It's going to be an interesting ride, and I think it can't be too far off. I don't think we'll see any type of an attack from the United States on a grand scale with respect to Iran or even Yemen until the second carrier arrives. And I think we're probably a couple weeks out from that. So once they go in, they're operational, rolling into the Red Sea, we may start to see things popping off with respect to Yemen as well as Iran. So, all right, look, that's going to do it. We will see you on the flip side. You guys have a blessed weekend, and definitely stay frosty. Interesting time to be alive, isn't it? All right, that's it. You guys be safe. God bless. Monkey out.